Welcome back to the Living Transplant Podcast. In September 2022, we launched Great Actions Leave a Mark, a national multi-year public awareness campaign about living organ donation and transplantation. In the coming weeks, you'll hear stories from Great Actions models about their journey with living organ donation. Please enjoy. Welcome back to the Living Transplant Podcast. Today, I am joined by another one of our amazing Great Actions Leave a Mark campaign models, Craig Satie. And I'm so happy to have you with me today. Thank you so much.
Thanks. It's great to be here and share a little bit more about participation in the campaign and some other experiences.
I'm wondering if you can tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
For sure. So my name is Craig Satie. I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Treaty 1 territory, but I am also a status First Nations person from Fisher River Cree Nation, which is about 3 hours north of Winnipeg, and it's a part of Treaty 5 adhesion territory. So that's a little bit about where I come from. I now live in Vancouver, BC on Coast Salish territory, and do some work here as a manager of cultural competency with the CanSolve CKD network. And yeah, just excited to share a little bit more about my experiences as well as a living kidney donor as well to my brother. So that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. And so about that journey, can you tell us a little bit about how you became your brother's kidney donor?
Yeah, so I think I've had a good amount of practice just participating in the campaign as well and sharing stories as well with other folks. And so really how it came to be was just my brother was diagnosed as a younger person and kind of advanced to end stage kidney failure in his late teens, early 20s. And so he had to go on dialysis at that point to be put on the transplant list. And so when, it was time for him to go on dialysis, they said, it's up to you to to kind of start seeking out a living donor if that's the route that you want to go, but they'll also obviously be put on the deceased donor list. And so, yeah, during that time, we reached out to a number of friends and family members who wanted to go through the initial testing phase, which was to go and get your blood and your tissue tests done. So during the transplant testing process, it was my uncle and myself who ended up being the best matches with Kevin's blood and tissue type. And so my uncle ended up going ahead with the testing just because my family was also going through some other kind of health issues at the time. And so he went forward with the testing, and then partway through kind of some of the testing showed that he might have some other health issues that needed attention and consideration from him. So he had to make the tough decision to not continue with the testing. And so that's kind of where I stepped in to take up those next steps. And we're also grateful to our uncle as well for going through that. And we know it was a hard decision to make, but necessary too, because he's got kids and grandkids as well, and we want him to be there for them as well, and then be there for us. And so he's always been there and continues to be so. And so we always think of him as well when we talk about our transplant journey as well as a big part of it. But yeah, so when I kind of stepped in and started going through those next testings, it took a few months to get them all kind of scheduled and go through them, but they all went pretty smoothly. I think one of the ones that stood out was the psychiatric test there as well, and just having questions about if you're doing it of your own volition, if anybody's pressuring you to do it, and just having conversations like that. And so it was something interesting to hear from that side of it too. And obviously those weren't any concern to me. I was doing it because it was someone in my family, my brother, to do that. And yeah, the last step was really to go in after getting the scan to drink the dye and see what your body looks like on the inside through the scan, and getting to see all the connections your kidneys have to other parts of your body, and kind of determining which one would be the best one to go through with. And so it was that last meeting to be able to see that and then determine which one was the best match. And it was the left kidney for me that ended up being the one that they were going to go in and operate on to take out and transplant to my brother. So it was a pretty amazing experience to go through. Definitely a bit of nerves, a bit of excitement, and just the process of waiting for those tests to come back and wanting everything to go smoothly. And thankfully that it did as well. So just
Mhm.
grateful to all that whole process and the team behind it that supports that work and does the testing. Had a fairly good experience with it, and yeah, I would say I'm grateful to be able to share that experience now. That was 10 years ago in October 18th, so that would have been 2012. And yeah, that was pretty cool to see that we reached that decade mark now of the
Mhm.
transplant journey, and knowing that Kevin's been able to live with that kidney now for 10 years is pretty amazing to see and to experience, and all of the growing up we've been able to do as well over that 10 years. And Kevin's been able to start family, and we've been working into our careers and whatnot. So a lot of growth has come from that experience, and I'm thankful for that as well.
Amazing. Amazing. And so, why did you decide to participate in the Great Actions campaign?
Yeah, I think when it was shared what the campaign was about, living organ donation, not just kidneys, but there's other organs that people donate as well. But just to share our experience, share my experience as a donor as well, and how
Mhm.
that went for me. I think also being a First Nations person as well, sharing that part of the journey as well, because sometimes experiences in the healthcare system aren't always the best. And so I think fortunately I did have a relatively good experience with the transplant, and it hasn't always been the case with other experiences in healthcare for myself. But
Mhm.
just being able to, I think, trust in that process for the end goal of having my brother having a chance to live a longer life with a new kidney in his body was really the goal, and wanting to share that story with the campaign and others who will hear about the campaign or hopefully become participants in the campaign as well, to share more transplant stories. So I think that's the real reason that we wanted to share that, was because it was also upcoming on our 10-year anniversary. So just to highlight that people can live long, healthy lives when they receive transplants, and when they also are the donors of organs that get transplanted into family members, or sometimes even anonymous people who donate
Mhm.
just out of the goodness of their own heart and altruistic passion to share a kidney or a part of their liver with somebody else is a pretty amazing thing to do. I think anonymously, I know that's a much different journey, and so hearing some of those journeys through the campaign is pretty cool to hear about as well.
Amazing. So, I'm wondering if you have any advice for people who are interested in living donation, but are kind of at the beginning stages of learning about being a donor. If you have any advice for them about what you went through or what the process is like, or maybe questions that they should be asking.
Yeah, funny that you asked that too, because I have actually had a couple people who were considering donating to a friend, or even somebody who was talking about anonymously to
Wow.
me, and just asking what the process was like for me, my experience with it, how I'm living now after
Hmm.
being a donor and living with one kidney, if it's how it's affected me positively or negatively.
Hmm.
And so those are the experiences that I've shared, that I've I've been able to live a healthy life since recovering as a donor. It definitely took probably 6 months to feel like kind of back to normal, to getting back into playing some sports, not going too crazy with contact sports, but starting to skate again, starting to do some light jogging and some light exercising like that, and just going in to get those check-ins too for the first couple of years
Hmm.
as well. And yeah, that there was that support system there for the first little while, and that my family has also been supportive as well. And so I think that's what I've kind of shared with people, that there is a bit of testing that you have to go through that will determine how you are able to go through the rest of the process. And I had a good experience with it. So if people felt like that's something they wanted to learn more about, talk to other people who've maybe been donors that they might be aware of. And I think now that there's this campaign, that there's other names and faces that people can see, and potentially reach out to the organizers of the campaign as well, to maybe talk to other people that have had that experience, and reach out to other organizations that also have people who are donors. I know in Ontario there's a TAP, so people who are in Ontario can reach out to the TAP program as well, and talk directly to people who are also donors and recipients. And you know that there's other places, I think in other provinces as well, that don't have a TAP, but they do have like a renal program that they might have contacts there that they can link up people with, to talk about experiences that people have had, and questions maybe from more of the physician or the organization side of, like Manitoba Transplant or BC Transplant or the Amgera Transplant in Toronto there. So you know that there's those transplant hospitals that coordinators that people can talk to get more information. And you know, the internet's always available, but it's always nice to talk to somebody, to get that human touch, I think, and human experience of what the whole process is about, being a transplant patient. And I guess one thing that I would highlight too about being a donor is really accessing those financial options as well. I know I did also sign up for like the living organ donation program there, that has a reimbursement for when you go travel for mileage or parking or meals when you're going to get tests done and stuff. So I think just being aware of the financial obligations too that go into being a donor, that you need to take that into consideration. So just thinking about that, if you have other opportunities to save up a little bit, or access ways to help support that part of the recovery that you might have to take off of work. And unfortunately, my mom's a pretty gifted organizer and fundraiser. And so that's one thing that she really helped with during our transplant, was we held a fundraiser to help with some of the costs of being off work, and costs of going to and from the visits. So we were able to raise some funds that way, and friends and family came out to support our Bud Spud and Steak fundraiser with some silent auction prizes and whatnot. And so that was one thing that we did to kind of help support the time off that it would take to recover as well. So that's one way. And I just read something recently. I can't remember which province or organization it was, but there was one that said that employees who are considering or thinking of being donors, that the organization would also still fund them for their position while they were going through that whole process. So
Yeah.
if there are organizations that are offering programs like that, to definitely tap into them and look into what your organization's support would be if you were to take time off because of being a living donor. I think that's a pretty cool initiative that I've seen come up recently, and just that option to support financially is definitely helpful, and might also be a thing that would help people to consider that, you know,
For sure.
donation part, not because of the financial gains, but just that financial support, that if you were to take time off, it wouldn't affect your job, it wouldn't affect your pay during that recovery period. So I think those are some pretty important parts of considering being a donor, is that part. And for me, it did take me a few months to recover, but you definitely feel that soreness in your core for a little while. But you know, after you get over that, you can get back to strengthening it up and getting back on the mend. So, you know, those are a few thoughts that come to mind about people interested in becoming a donor, and some advice.
That's fantastic. So I'll put in the podcast notes a couple links to things that you mentioned. One of them is the Canadian Society of Transplantation Circle of Excellence. And that's the program for employers who cover the pay for the donor who is out after donating a kidney or a portion of their liver. And you can check into that if your employer is part of that circle of excellence. And if they're not, and you're going to be a donor, that's also a really great opportunity to present that to your employer to see if they would be interested. And in Ontario, the program is called Prelod, but every province across Canada has a program to reimburse expenses of donors so that you're not out of pocket of those things that you talked about, like transportation and parking and meals and things like that. Hope Air is an organization that covers the cost of travel for donors. There's no out-of-pocket cost for Hope Air. And so that's a really great initiative that has come forward as well. And they book all the flights, they book the hotels, and they have meal vouchers as well. So that's a lot easier on people than having to book it all themselves and get reimbursed too. So, but I agree with you, definitely there's no financial gain from this, but we want to do everything that we can to make sure that the donors who are stepping forward to saving our lives as recipients don't have to incur any cost themselves, right? So lots to think about as a donor. And for yourself, you mentioned light jogging, but you one-upped that. You ran a marathon, didn't you?
Yeah. So that's been a goal for a long time.
Amazing.
And I think during COVID, obviously lots of time to ourselves in our homes,
Right.
but lots of time for us to get out and exercise outside with some of that distance and whatnot. So yeah, during
Yeah.
the pandemic time there, I was able to do a half marathon virtually one year, and then this past year here when things have opened back up again, I was able to do the full marathon here in Vancouver this
Wow.
past this past May, and that was pretty neat experience to finish my first marathon race and actually run it with
Incredible.
other people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations. That's incredible.
Mm.
That's amazing. So I've got one more question for you. Do you have any advice for potential recipients who are going through this process, who have someone who steps forward to be their donor, but they're nervous about saying yes? We know that you're stepping forward because you want to, but it's very scary for us to see someone that we love step forward to take that risk.
Any advice for that? I don't know if I have
Mhm.
any what advice I would have, but I would say, for myself, like if I wasn't comfortable doing it, I wouldn't have stepped forward.
Mhm.
And there's definitely lots of opportunity throughout the process to think about it and also weigh your options. And so there was a few months of testing, so I had opportunity to go in and do the tests, but also think about how it was going to affect me after the fact, and also lots of opportunity to talk more with the people who are the coordinators at the clinic
Mhm.
at Manitoba Transplant. So able to talk to people there, talk to my family as well. And another thing that we did quite a bit of too was take these take this process as well to some of the First Nations Indigenous ceremonies that we go to and ask for
Mhm.
guidance there as well, right? So some of our elders, some of our healers that we're connected to, we're able to go and talk to them as well and find counsel in our circles that we're connected with. And so not just to you're not alone to make these decisions by yourself
Mhm.
as a donor or as a recipient. And so for my brother and I, obviously we're pretty close, and so fortunate for us to go and didn't have to go and have those conversations together all the time, but go and have seek counsel from people that we trust
Mhm.
as well, and in Western medicine, but also in Indigenous medicine as well, and share some of those insights. And so I would say to people, find those people that have had maybe those experiences, or people that you trust to confide in and share those thoughts. And yeah, I think that's a pretty big decision, life decision to make as well. So just to work through those emotions as best as you can. And I think if you have somebody stepping up to be a donor, is willing to go through the testing and go through that whole process, that they're willing and able to do it, and they're wanting to give that gift of life, as we've been calling it. And so, you know, I think that's an important part, is they wouldn't do that if they didn't want to, and I wouldn't have done it if I didn't want to. But fortunately, it all worked out for the best. And yeah, just thinking about that as a gift as well, and thinking about sometimes when I go and seek counsel, even from knowledge keepers and elders as well. Sometimes, like in my culture, we put tobacco out to ask them questions or something that we're seeking guidance in, and I think of it, I could kind of think of it in that same way, as like you're seeking guidance and seeking life as well from somebody in that way. And if an elder was not able to give you that information, or didn't have the knowledge to share that information, they would direct you to somebody else, or they would say, sorry, I'm not able to provide you with that information. I don't carry those teachings or whatnot. And so, you know, I think that's also something that's any kind of gift is you offer to people. And sometimes if they're not able to accept it, then not able to. But for the most part, I think with the journey between my brother and I, it worked out that I know that he felt a little bit of type of way about accepting that too, and how it would affect my health. But here we are 10 years later, and we're living healthy lives, and we're continuing to be members of the kidney community and all the other communities that we're involved in, to, you know, share our gifts there and share our stories and our experiences. So that's what I would say, I guess, about you know, advice for people who are thinking about donating and thinking about receiving a donation. Just some thoughts that come to mind from my experience.
Awesome. Thank you. And is there anything else that you'd like to add to have the listeners hear? I
think one thing that I would add in here too is that my experience is also like I've grown up primarily in the cities. So, you know, I've always kind of lived in the city, and just access to treatment and access to healthcare is a lot more available, because really you could take public transit, drive the car, you can, you know, easy to get to the hospital. And so for some of our relatives who live in rural and remote communities, I know that there are other projects happening in the kidney community about access to care and access to transplant. And so some of them that I've heard about, I know in BC, there's one that's talking about maybe scheduling some of those times for testings to kind of be done over the course of a couple of days, so that you wouldn't have to come back 4 or 5 times for multiple tests, but to kind of do those tests in 1 or 2 days, just at least to get the first part of them done, and then maybe a second part of them done, because I know that's a pretty big cost as well for people to have to come down and take time from work during that process period. So just some of those pieces as well with the kidney and organ donation, as well as for people that are living in more rural, remote communities, that there is work being done. I know it's tough to get to and from the main cities and transplant centers a lot of the time. And so, you know, just want to highlight that that's also a part of that process. And I know that there's been a couple of members of the council that I work with as well, with CanSolve, who share that experience as people who are living in rural communities, and just some of their experiences. So, you know, that we're thinking of you too, and working with churches as well to help find ways to make transplant more accessible as well to communities. And if people are living in rural, remote communities, making those connections with us as well, to TAP, to CanSolve, to Canadian Society of Transplant, these organizations where, your voice should be included to bring those issues to the table. That's something else I wanted to just share as well. That
Amazing. And so if people wanted more information about CanSolve, what is the website that they can go to?
it's CanSolve, CKD.ca. So yeah, CANSOLVE, CKD.ca. And yeah, you'll see my information on there. You'll see my face on there under some of our team contacts. And yeah, if you want to connect with me, I'm happy to chat with people as well. Available by email. So it's all on the website there.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Craig.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Craig's story from our Great Actions Leave a Mark campaign. For more information, visit www.greatactions.ca. If you have your own story you'd like to share, please reach out to us at livingorgandonation@uhn.ca. And don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like our podcast. Thanks for listening.